So this week on the podcast, since it's football season, we thought we would talk about our favorite sport, football. And we brought in a guest, Bob Sturm, from our station in Dallas, The Ticket. He's a big football dude. Let's talk Cowboys, NFL, why we love football so much. What could happen between the day we tape it and the day the Cowboys open the season? Well, Jerry trades Micah Parsons. How about that? So what you're going to hear today is a conversation with Bob about the Cowboys, and you'll hear a lot of background and context of maybe why Jerry made this deal, but you won't hear us specifically talk about the Micah deal. We'll do that on down the road. But as we have, I think, concluded, I don't know if it really changes our opinion of what the Cowboys were going to be this year anyway.
No, and it only adds to the Cowboys circus, which we all knew was a circus anyway. So as a season preview, we all still feel pretty much the same about the Cowboys. We just want you to know going forward over the next hour or so of this podcast, the reason we're not talking about the Micah trade is because the Micah trade happened after we recorded this.
Yes.
Jerry throwing a wrench in the works for us.
Yes, but we have another edition of How the Cowboy World Turns.
The Musers, the podcast, episode 11. It's the Cowboys season preview.
Yes, it is episode 11 of The Musers, the podcast. I'm George Dunham.
I'm Craig Miller.
Were you not doing it?
What's that?
Oh, wow, look, a special guest.
Yeah, I thought I'd sit in on this one since I understand it's a special Cowboys content.
What have you done with Gordon Keith?
He ain't here.
Okay, well, we'll try to
He's
find
in the back
Gordo
of
here
my
on
trunk
episode
of my
11.
limousine.
And it is going to be something different here in episode 11. We've been talking about things we love, our passions in life, and we're going to continue that next week. We've heard from Craig. We've heard from Gordon. I'll tell you about the things that I love next week. But since the National Football League is starting this week, and even though they haven't been to an NFC championship game in 31 years, the Dallas Cowboys are still the talk of the NFL, in a manner of speaking. We thought we would talk Cowboys NFL football season with one of our good football friends, Bob Sturm, who we work with at the Ticket in Dallas. He does the evening show from 3 to 7, afternoon drive, the hard line. He's Football Bob. That's what we call him. And Bob Sturm is with us for a very special edition of The Musers, the podcast. And starting next week, Bob is going to talk with us and give us some extra content as we weave our way through another football season. Good to have you, Bob.
It is so good to be here with my favorite, the podcast that I've ever heard.
Do you really believe, Bob, that he's listened to every episode?
I don't believe a word of that, and we're going to make sure that that young Jerry shows up as well as old Jerry.
Perfect.
By the way, congratulations, Bob. You are officially the first guest we've ever had on this podcast.
Yeah.
Incredibly unworthy.
How about that?
Why not?
Okay.
The question marks around the Western and Eastern Hemisphere is stunning right now.
And as George said, starting next week, we're going to produce a special edition of the Musers, the podcast. It'll be a special weekly Cowboys edition outside of the regular flagship edition, which will drop still every Wednesday morning. George and Bob, in particular, will be hosting our Thursday edition of the Musers, the podcast, special Cowboys edition. That's going to be great.
Dream come true.
To carry everybody through the football season.
It's going to be a big deal, and I predict that Bob Sturm's going to be worth 5 Heisman trophies.
We still have young Jerry.
I'm so excited.
Shotgun with us.
I'm going to put Mini Muser on my business card. This is quite an honor. So excited.
The NFL dominates the sports scene in this country, and I can't say around the world, Bob, because your other sport of football, I guess, dominates worldwide. But even though they haven't been relevant in terms of going to a Super Bowl in 31 years, the Cowboys still dominate talk, and here we are again to start another season. And isn't it interesting that a team that in its first 36 years went to 5 Super Bowls, they won 5 titles, they went to 8 Super Bowls, 16 conference championship games, 0 for the last 31 years, and yet they still are at the top of the discussion board across the NFL.
It makes no sense. I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, so much of it makes no sense, starting with the fact that the Cowboys kind of showed up as a franchise and against all of the flagships of the NFL began making their mark within, just a few years and worked their way up late 60s, were dominant in the 70s, just from the NFC standpoint, but even the entire NFL, one play goes differently in one of those Steelers Super Bowls, and they're the team of the 70s. Then they repeated in the 90s with a completely different cast of characters, and then just as quickly they disappear into the night, and they've sort of become historically irrelevant for these 30 years, and yet they can't stop making money. They can't stop getting eyeballs.
That's funny.
No matter what they try.
I love it, Bob.
They can't lose their spot on the top of the podium of, I guess, relevance, even though we're not even quite sure why. So they're an endlessly fascinating topic, and we should probably thank them for solidifying a lot of our careers, because it keeps going no matter what.
I went back and dug this up, added it all up, and this is just, I can't even make sense of this. From 1969 to 1996, that's 28 seasons, the Cowboys won 31 playoff games. So that's more than one a season.
Mm-hmm.
From 1997 to 2024 last season, that would be the last 28 seasons, they won 4 playoff games, and that is with expanded NFL playoffs.
Jeez.
So they went 28 years and won 31 playoff games, but the last 28 years they've only won 4. That makes no sense.
That's irrelevant.
And
what about that money?
You know what all 4 of those wins have in common?
Me.
They didn't ultimately get you to the NFC title game?
Their wild card round.
Yeah.
I mean,
not even a divisional win.
They're not even a divisional win. They have yet to even win a final 8 round, if you will, to make it to a final 4. So it all defies mathematical probabilities, which is why I come back to something I feel like I repeat a lot, just because I sense that so few people still believe it, and that is they're going to win. They're going to win it all at some point real soon. It can't keep going like this forever. The odds every year increase as hope and belief decreases, that they will go all the way again, and it will happen with most of us witnessing. We just don't know when and how long they can continue to defy the odds.
And Cowboy fans are really spoiled. We grew up in the era where it was expected they were just going to win, and they did for 20 consecutive years, from 1966 to 1986. And just like Craig illustrated there with those numbers, and then, as I mentioned, the first 36 years, basically half of those years they were in at least the equivalent of the NFC title game. Used to be the NFL title game,
right,
before the 2 leagues merged, and then nothing. And I got to tell you, I'm starting to think, I think we asked this question when we did our show from training camp. I don't know if it's going to happen while Jerry's still alive.
Sure as hell is.
I hate to break that to him, but I'm starting to think, after 31 years, you start thinking like that. No offense to Cleveland, but you start thinking like a Browns fan.
I wonder about that too. And to your point, Bob, you're right. At some point, they will win it all again. But how long did Red Sox fans have to wait?
Right.
I mean, that may not mean that they're going to get it done in the next 5 or 10 years. That may mean, to George's point, I think, that it might be 50 more years or 60 more years.
Yeah, it could, and that's what's interesting is in my head, I'm always running the numbers of just how many teams are there, how many years are there. Okay, so everybody gets a turn every 32 years, let's say.
Right.
That doesn't work out that way, but hypothetically, that should be how often everybody takes a turn. Then the Cowboys jam 5 into a small number of years, so now does it just have to normalize? But the thing about the Cowboys that continues to confuse everyone just with common sense is the resources, the intent, all of the things poured into it. It is not a famine of like neglect. They didn't stop trying to farm this land. They're still trying with all their might to do the best they can with unlimited resources and every advantage, and I realize the NFL does have caps to what you can spend on players, but it doesn't have caps on what you can spend on resources, on coaching staff, on scouting departments. I mean, you can literally take this financial advantage and build every advantage as far as you possibly can. And for whatever reason, they don't. So you have
got to have some yacht money.
Well, they have invested a lot in yachts and in stadiums and in artwork and a practice facility that's worth more than most stadiums. I mean, there's just so many things to the Cowboys business that just does kind of go back to a family business, an Arkansas family business that is bigger than any sports brand literally on the planet, which encompasses so many sports and so many worldwide brands, and yet the Cowboys not only are on top of them all, but they're building a lead every year financially of value and of revenues, and because of the cap, they can't spend it all back on the players, so it's actually pure profit. Like hundreds of millions of dollars of profit every year. So it defies all common sense that they can continue to underperform as a football franchise.
No one in this room has hope for this year, do they? That they're going to, outside of Jerry. That they're going to end, say, the NFC title streak or a Super Bowl streak. They don't get back this year, do they?
I mean, the level of hope is low. They've done a really nice job of lowering the bar in the last 12 to 18 months so they can exceed expectations. So that could be a happy season, right? And yes, you can wander into a Final Four almost by accident. Enough teams have done it over the years. Heck, the Commanders did it last year. Out of nowhere, they end up in the Final Four, so that can be done. The idea that they could win a Super Bowl this year does seem absurdly far-fetched, but it's an actual low bar. The low bar of making a Final Four in a 32-team league should not be off the table for a team this talented.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, and they've got the longest streak by a mile now in the NFC.
Yes.
By 10 years plus over the Bears, who have the next longest streak, I think it is.
I think that's right.
Which is
Washington,
just amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing that franchises like the Panthers and the Saints and all these Cardinals, all these downtrodden franchises have been to the NFC title game way more recently than the Cowboys. Makes no sense.
And almost all of them Super Bowls as well. Like they've actually attended a Super Bowl. And the Cowboys continue to defy those odds, and it's a different story every time. But I've never seen the market like this area. They're most loyal and geographically, close fans lose hope like they have now. Like it's a barren wasteland of just belief now that they will win soon because nobody actually believes it anymore.
See, I think the Super Bowl drought will end this year for the Buffalo Bills. That's my Super Bowl pick.
Okay.
I don't know who you guys pick, but I think the Bills will finally get back to the Super Bowl and they will actually win the Super Bowl. It's not going to be the Cowboys.
Well,
it'll be an AFC team, and I'll go with the Bills.
But you're saying they beat the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we're going to reverse
early 90s
what we saw
losses.
in the 90s. No, I don't think the Cowboys will be there.
I think you guys are the best
Hold on
test
a second.
market.
Let's see here. Shit list, George Dunham. I'm putting that one down right now.
Man, I
don't want to be on that list.
I think we just had the podcast history here. I'm really excited about being witness to this.
Not only are you our first guest, you were present for our first cuss word.
Man, I am so excited. It's about time this thing gets a little spicier.
Yeah.
No, you guys are a great test audience because you are the little boys with the lollies that grew up with Tom Landry and Roger Staubach.
Just thinking it would never end.
And hope in your hearts and belief in your being that this is our year, because every year is our year. We're Cowboy fans. We
were so spoiled. I mean, that's still, I think, outside of what the Patriots did with Brady and Belichick, they go from 66 to 86 winning seasons, all those playoff games, all those Super Bowls, and then a drought in the late 80s, but then come back and win 3 out of 4. From 66 to 96, Cowboy fans were so incredibly spoiled. It just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, and you remember how crazy Cowboy fans went and the Dallas-Fort Worth area went when they got back to the Super Bowl that 92 season and won it. Can you imagine, just say they were to get back this season, you think that celebration was insane? 30 years of pent-up frustration to be let loose on the city streets if they were to finally ever get back to the Super Bowl. I couldn't imagine how crazy people will go, even though they've all lost faith. I think you're right, Bob. I think we're at an all-time low for Cowboy fans' optimism. But as soon as they start the season 10-2 or something like that, they'd all be right back on the train.
Yeah, and look, it's a dark path to wander down, but there's no doubt the lifespan of Jerry Jones is tied to all of this. And you say, I mean, I don't think he'll live to see the next championship. That's a very fair prediction. In fact,
sorry about that, Jerry.
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about?
That's that list.
I'm young Jerry right now.
In fact, you might tie it to the idea that it might launch a new era of success. Which will be an absurdly weird feeling in all of us of how to handle, the passing of one of the, if not the most significant sports figure in this area's history.
Well, I'm trying to prop Steven up to be my successor, but he still hasn't learned his ABCs yet. He can't do his letters.
But you're right, Bob. It may take that, and we kind of saw that in the NFL recently. This guy didn't die, but he was removed when Dan Snyder, an inept owner.
Yeah.
Not that Jerry's an inept owner. He's an inept football manager, but Snyder was inept, and it trickled down to football. Once he got out of the way, Washington got to the NFC title game.
I think
almost immediately.
I think it's happened repeatedly in sports. I grew up on the Chicago Blackhawks, and their owner, Bill Wirtz, was seen as he was called Dollar Bill Wirtz because he was very frugal and did not allow the Blackhawks to even be on television. And so many things were backwards and old school from him. He died almost immediately. The Chicago Blackhawks turned into not only the heart of Chicago for several years, but a dynasty. Like they had gone through a Stanley Cup drought that had been, a couple generations where nobody in the city cared about the local hockey team. And I realize hockey in Chicago and football in Dallas are two different animals, but I do think we're going to get to a spot where none of our kids ever saw the Cowboys good. And they're going to discover this for the first time. And it's going to be a lot like young Bob with a Packer team where I'm born in Wisconsin, and I missed Lombardi. I missed Lombardi by about a decade.
Yeah.
And so by the time
you just saw bad Packers until Favre got there.
George, they were so bad, so hopeless that I actually remember feeling good about 8-8 seasons. Like when we finally got to 8-8, it's like, we didn't lose this year.
Hey, 8-8 is still sellable to the fans.
we broke even. And then 1 year in 1989. So the only year the Packers made the playoffs before I was legal drinking age was 1982 when there was a strike. And they only played about half the season. They played 9 games?
Yeah, I believe so. They faced the Cowboys.
They came down to Texas Stadium and got rolled. But
were those
Danny
the years Bart Starr was coaching?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and for a while, we would hire Lombardi's players to be our coach, thinking that's the way out. It was just such a mess. But just imagine growing up somewhere, loving a football team, and for the first 21 years of your life, they had never gone to the playoffs a single time in an actual season.
Wow.
Not once. And so you grow up so hopeless that any little reward, a wild card win, is such an occasion, such a happy thought and a dream that someday maybe we could win 2 playoff games in a year. Maybe they would actually show us on Monday Night Football. Maybe, all these weird things that people here were born into as, well, this is normal. We are the Cowboys. It was just the opposite for my childhood. So to kind of now see it's not really flip, but go to a point where up there, Green Bay fans are these entitled, annoying, spoiled fans of 11 wins is not enough for us. Why don't we win more in the playoffs? And then it kind of flips. It might actually be my presence because wherever I go, the football team stinks, it seems. But now the Cowboys, like the belief that the Cowboys could go 15-2 in the regular season, and their fans would still be sarcastic and cynical.
Let's see what happens in January.
And full of impending doom in January that we're going to get. I've seen this before. We're about to be disappointed yet again. And so I'm really interested in just the fan mentality and culture of like belief or sarcasm or just whatever goes into the fan experience. I guess that's what sort of fascinates and fuels me, is just the way people respond as a community or a culture to what they really enjoy as a pastime.
I think it's a really hard sell to the younger generation of, hey, the Cowboys used to be good. It's going to be good again someday. And then you look at the stadium every week. It's full. It's not half full.
That's right.
Like it was in '89 when they went 1-15. It hasn't gotten that bad. It's like they've been just good enough to make you think, yeah, I'll be a season ticket holder, even though it cost me dearly.
That's right.
I'll keep buying those tickets
and
in essence keep buying into all this.
Yeah, it's not even just a local thing. Like the networks for years fight to get Cowboy games to their most treasured spots that will drive the most ratings.
And it still works.
And
as it stands now, it still works on numbers.
But it's counter to everything in sports television, because in sports television, in every sport, everybody fights over the teams that are contenders or champions for their best spots to get the best ratings. The Cowboys defy that logic because it really doesn't matter if the Cowboys are good or not. If the people are, and obviously if they get enough guys injured, it can be a stinker. But for the most part, they have to put the Cowboys at the highest spots because Dak Prescott is box office. Well, why is he box office? We're not sure. But, boy, people love watching him.
That's right.
They love watching Micah Parsons. They love watching Tony Romo. And they want to put them in all the top spots. And so that makes the Cowboys more viewed by everybody. So it becomes a soap opera. It's not a sports story. It's a, man, what's going to happen next in this Cowboys soap opera? And it's from sea to shining sea. It has nothing to do with just DFW. Somehow Jerry Jones, and I'm not even sure he did it on purpose. It feels almost like a happy accident.
No, I did it on purpose.
I don't know.
Well thought out.
I think you fell into this one, but whatever.
I made the Dion deal, didn't I?
It's all
did do the
you
Dion
did.
deal.
Yeah, you did.
Dion was
Dion
like
deal.
Jesus joined the Beatles and dropped a Taylor Swift album.
He's
Just
right.
a hit.
So whatever they do, people care, and it's 50 states. People care.
Isn't that a testament to what Tom and Tex built in the beginning, and then what Jerry and Jimmy took to a new level? And as much as he's hated in the Metroplex and around the country, a testament to Jerry wanting to keep the soap opera, as he said, 365 days a year, keep that going. The fact that you can have a team that hasn't done anything in the postseason for 30 years, yet they are still the most interesting team in the world, it has to do with going back to getting the label America's team and being glitz and glamour, and that sells, and it's just amazing. It's kept the interest level still at a fever pitch today.
But you can't teach it like in a business school.
No.
Because you're basically having a restaurant that is horrible at making food, horrible at memorable dining experiences, And yet there is a line around the block several times over, no matter what. In fact, honestly, the worse they serve the food, the more customers show up. They can't screw the business.
They show up just to talk about how bad the food is, and they want to. And that is that's really reflected in the Netflix series America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, which has been huge, played huge around the world. There's so many things to take out of that. The results on the field were incredible in the 90s, but how about the soap opera that the Cowboys were in the 90s and have been ever since with that dude, Jerry, running things?
Yeah, and honestly, and I've talked to a lot of you guys who lived here. So I was starting my career, but I was still from afar until I got here just in time for Michael Irvin to stab Everett McIver in the neck with a pair of scissors. So that was a highlight. But
Loved it. I loved it.
But the rest of it, I'm in Virginia at the time, I guess, watching it unfold day to day because I'm covering one of their main rivals, or at least Washington hoped they were a main rival at the time. But they were pretty
Back
good
then, yeah.
So what's fascinating about that is in talking to people that were living here and experiencing it day to day, and of course you guys know that better than anybody, to watch it pushed together in a Netflix documentary kind of gets your mind working at, holy heck, not only did we forget some of the details, but to have it laid out almost like a photo album, you're now aware of how desensitized you get to chaos if you live in chaos.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how normalized the Jerry Jones Flying Circus has become to those of us who are too close to it. You almost need a little distance or this type of presentation as a historical time capsule to remind you how absolutely bonkers that time was.
Yes.
And even now, being in the same city but moving a couple decades away from it, you look back and you're just like, that was, even by our standards, that is crazy. And those were crazy people. And I said this, the other day, and I don't know if you guys would push back on this, but it's like the 90s Cowboys are one of the most accomplished, decorated, special football teams that ever existed. And yet, I feel like they underachieved.
Right.
They could have, yeah.
It's a little like Tiger Woods. Like, dude, you were so great, but also introduced so much chaos to your life and did not keep the main thing, that I think you left like 5 more titles on the table.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Cowboys, the way it just imploded on itself with no sort of adult in the room making sure everybody focused on the task at hand from like, I don't want to say the minute Jimmy left, but at least after Super Bowl 30, it disintegrated so fast that you feel like those are lost years where you still had special talent and nobody really watching the store.
That could have been 5 in a row.
Yes, absolutely. They
could have won certainly that first season with Barry. Let's just assume Jimmy stayed that whole time.
Right.
Oh, God.
They could have won those 4, through the Pittsburgh Super Bowl. And then that next season, instead of everything falling apart, if they had held it together, that should have been the 95 season where they were barely holding it together, but they still won their 5th in a row.
That's right.
They could have won 5 straight.
Yeah, I mean, you would start the 96 season without, Michael Irvin being suspended for the first 5 weeks and just barely eluding prison.
Look at the drafts of 94 and 95,
yes.
too. Outside of Larry Allen, they didn't really acquire. There wasn't another Jimmy trade in there that maybe could have propelled them.
Right. And so, to me, you leave. First of all, we should say, if you watch the documentary, you have to know that Jones and his family were paid $50 million by Netflix for the rights to this thing.
Right.
And therefore,
He did it again. He did it again.
he can't stop making money. But therefore, we have to be a little cynical at the voice and the perspective of things and how it's painted. That said, I think we all agree that Jimmy Johnson was probably a horrible tyrant and impossible to live with.
Agreed. We agree on that. And he also had a small Johnson.
However, I think the dynasty probably needed a tyrant to keep order
Yes.
Yep.
and focus.
It worked.
And task at hand. And when he left, it was such a flying circus. First, Jerry was way more interested in a whistle and coaching shorts than he was in actually, overseeing anything. Barry can't believe he's been called to run the most successful franchise in sports. Like, you sure you got the right number here?
Right.
And so, he's thrust into it. He's given all of Jimmy's coaching staff. It's just it's the biggest circus of all time. So they overachieved, or at least achieved at the highest level ever, and then underachieved at the same time. And so that is a endlessly fascinating documentary that, even though you should take it with a grain of salt on the he said parts of it, I also think if you love sports on any level, you have to watch how great and how quickly Rome burns when a bunch of guys have success and kind of unchecked.
Yes.
And yet through all that and the downfall of the team on the field, regardless of what he was paid by Netflix, there are facts in there that he changed the way the NFL did business.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk to Fox. And let's not talk tens or hundreds of millions. Let's talk billions for rights fees.
Billion.
And let's talk changing the way we do corporate sponsorship. Instead of this archaic way the NFL is doing it, let's let every franchise do their own regional deals, national deals. And that's why he is in the Hall of Fame. And those are facts. Jerry changed the template for the NFL.
Hold on, let me take you off my shit list.
There's no doubt those are facts. I guess my volley to Jerry, if he wants to respond here, or it could just be rhetorical, is what is the goal of all of this? And that's a great question. I suppose to a sports owner, it's a clear answer that the goal is profit. Whereas young sports encyclopedia carrying Bob will tell you the goal of football is to win titles.
Yeah, I think every owner, their private goal is profit. Their public goal, they always say, to win a Super Bowl.
Right. So if I said right now, you're going to fall to 11th on the Forbes list of most valuable franchises on the planet.
Unacceptable.
But you're going to win a Super Bowl this year. Do you take that deal?
He would not take that deal, would
No.
you?
No, would not take that deal.
I agree.
It's about influence. And I'll tell you this. Early episode, I talked about the night I spent in New Orleans with Jerry that started somewhere around 11 o'clock and finished the next morning around 7 o'clock.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
One of our favorite stories.
One thing that I didn't mention, at some point during the night, I don't know if it was after I sang Let It Be with the band or it was before we talked to Freezy, somewhere in there, we were talking about just that, about team success versus, financial success. And I said, are you going to get back? Are you going to get the Cowboys back? And he said, oh, yeah, we're going to be back, and I'm going to run this whole damn league. And I remember thinking, what a strange thing to say. But he took on the league. The league sues Jerry. He takes on and wins.
Yeah.
He was right about that. That was his manifest destiny, was that he wanted to run the league the way he wasn't the commissioner, but and yet he kind of was.
Yeah, and it's way easier to digest this entire narrative if you simply come to the grips that Jerry Jones wins his Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
He does win every year because those profit sheets, those revenue, lists of which NFL teams have made the most money and have made the biggest business empire. The Cowboys are at the top, not only in the NFL, but in worldwide sport. And that is his Super Bowl. And so, honestly, when you watch a documentary like that, we watch it through the lens of why aren't they winning Super Bowls? Why are they sort of a joke in this league now? And we think, boy, that guy must have a lot of regrets about the wrong turns he's taken. And the answer is he doesn't have a single regret. Every decision he's made.
Don't you think he gets a lot of pats on the back from his fellow owners going, man,
Man,
you changed everything for us.
What's your secret? Man, help me. I'm trying to sort out this at my place. Jerry, if you could just give me some advice on how to be as successful as you. Yeah, every billionaire in the room is thinking Jerry Jones is the man. And when your values are that, and maybe I'm the naive one thinking that anyone actually cares about trophies in sports besides us fans, but I would say that he sort of looks at all of this and sees nothing but good things because he is on top with the most money, and he has built the most beautiful stadium, and the TV networks bow to him and just everything, and he's like, yeah, got another trophy right here.
I do think he's satisfied if they are good. I don't think he wants to be 5-12. But if they're around 500 and they're constantly the headline story on the ESPN talk shows, and we're talking about them on the local radio shows, and I think that's his bar. Just be good enough to where we're kind of in the conversation. And I think that, coupled with him being the number one most valuable franchise in the world every year, I think he is just totally fine with that. Would he love to win another Super Bowl? Of course. But as long as they're relevant,
right,
that's number one for him.
And I think he probably believes that if I'm relevant long enough, someday my ship will come in just by accident.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep having 15-foot putts, and at some point one's accidentally going to go in.
Right. Sink one. Sink one eventually.
Right. So I mean, there's actually some wisdom in that, but when we just say what is your main focus and what is your main motivation, it's just this idea. Oh, no, Jerry wants to win. I think if he wanted to win, he would not purposely introduce chaos routinely to what he does. It's like he doesn't want to win. He wants to be the main character of the most interesting soap opera in sports. Mm-hmm. And
true.
His actions.
And I want a penis the size of Charles Haley. I tell you, that thing was impressive in the shower. I mean, it looked like an elephant's trunk down there.
Okay,
some things
looked like his prehensile.
Yeah,
he could pick up a peanut and feed it to his ass.
I heard it.
Some things money can't buy, I suppose. But it's wild. I did something about a month ago just where you go through, like, the Philadelphia Eagles are the world champs, and they're probably going to win it again. You throw out your pick. I look at the Eagles and I say, that's the best team in the NFC. The 4 best teams in the AFC are all going to pound on each other, and the Eagles might have the easiest path, and they might also have the best team. So
that's a good way to look at it.
I don't like the Eagles at all. I guess my childhood team and the team I cover for a living both can't stand the Eagles, so we unify in that. And I would just say, though, when comparing the Eagles to the Cowboys, if the goal is like football acumen on how to do this, how to chase this trophy, then I would always say, I don't like them, but maybe we should start ripping off what they do. And what do they do? Well, a number of things, and I won't bore you with going down the entire list, but I do want to say this one's important. If you look at all of their biggest contracts, every single one of them, which are signed in different years, of course, but they're all signed in the same 2 months, March and April.
Yes.
Every single one of them. You can go.
Something the Cowboys do not do.
And every single one of the Cowboys' biggest contracts are signed when? August and September.
When I get around to it.
And why is that relevant? Because if you do it in August and September, I guess you maximize the NFL news cycle, but you also terrorize your own football operation with nonsense and noise and chaos, and you can't maybe have one without the other, and he chooses chaos.
One thing we do have in common with Jerry is a love of football. I thought that would be interesting. Why do we love this game so much? Why does America live and die with this game? Jump off a pickup truck onto a card table and smash it with mustard and ketchup on it and paint your face, cry when your team wins or cry when your team loses. To me, it goes back to a really early age. And it was and maybe it was because I was a Cowboys fan and my team won and that helped. But to me, it was just this beautiful game of chess and war at the same time, power and outflanking your opponent. And it still looks that way to me when I see a play develop. Bob, you're really good at recognizing things of coverages and what makes a play work and all that. But from a very young age, to me, it was important and it was beautiful.
What are coverages? I need to write this down. This sounds interesting.
I'll have Bob talk to you after the podcast.
I think you said it very well. It does remind us of, I guess, having little toy soldiers on our bed or on our kitchen table as boys, and just seeing a group of men working together against another group of men.
Yeah.
And maybe even you have some generals over there on headsets sort of deploying guys in a certain strategic way, and it does feel like a real live game of chess. And the more you study what one or two pieces are doing, the more they become fascinating. But now you're ignoring these guys over here, and what are they doing, and why are these two guys fighting? And just all of that, I think it does speak to us in some sort of subconscious way. And I love that, but I also love how it introduces nature. And that's why I'm a little sad that there's so many artificial environments now for football, because I do love grass stains and mud and wind and pouring rain and snow and just all the things that football gives us that the other sports don't. The other sports are either inside, or when it rains, we have to put our tarp out because we can't let our field get wet.
Right.
That isn't life.
Didn't it add to those battles between the 49ers and Cowboys that were played at Candlestick?
You're doggone right.
It played in a mud mass.
This isn't a field. What are we even playing on here? We're playing football, bro. That's what we're doing. And if you're not tough enough, well, we'll just go ahead and take this W, and you can see yourself off, or you can stand here and fight us. And that's the nature of this thing. And so, yeah, it speaks to our bones. It speaks to, many of us, thankfully, have never had to spend any time on an actual battlefield, and we would never, confuse fighting for a greater cause than just what we love about noon on Sunday. But man, is it a great way to pass the time as men, or as Americans, or however you want to say it. Just the way we sort of wander into the minds of what that must be to have to go against a guy that big all afternoon and hold up what my team needs me to hold up so that we can accomplish our missions. Like, it's just the best.
Yeah.
Football is so great. I love the other sports. I really do. But at its core, just looking at that one moment, that one play that could determine everything. And now we're asking this guy who's never done it before to come in here and to lead our guys to victory, or we have to talk about this defeat, and those clowns who I work with who like that other team are going to be crowing about, just football is so meaningful to me. And I also love the fact that I've been able to sort of make a career out of it, and the fact that it's sort of become a year-long obsession to so many people, because as soon as the season's over, okay, now we got to learn 200, 300 guys for the draft, and we do it all over again, and just the circle never stops. So it's, since we were boys to now, the growth of this sport and the way it passed baseball in American culture is endlessly interesting, and where it stops. And so many people have predicted the end of football or the fall of football, or it's too violent, or it's too, enough people are turned off by this or that about the sport. And man, all I see is this freight train, and maybe guys like Jerry Jones deserve a ton of credit, or maybe it's just such an unbelievable sport that finally evolved to this level of entertainment that it was going to be there at some point anyway. I don't know, but man, it's great to have football. It's so great to have football back.
I'm glad you brought up the weather thing, because that's, when I was a kid, one of the first things that attracted me to football. Growing up in Oklahoma, when OU would play at Nebraska in November and it'd be really cold, and I just thought there was something so magical about that. Or being a young Cowboys fan when they go to Minnesota and play at the old Met outside. It was just No other sport did that, like you said. And I also appreciated the beauty of the sport, like you were talking about, George. I love the beauty of a perfectly executed play. I could even, as a kid, a running back taking a pitch and hitting a seam and going 80 was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, or a deep ball hitting a receiver in stride. But also, I was initially drawn to the sport for what I thought was the other beauty aspect. I loved the uniforms.
Yeah.
I loved the helmet decals.
Absolutely.
And I loved the colors and the jerseys and these pads they were wearing. And the markings on the field I thought were really cool. And the stadiums to me were beautiful. I used to build stadiums out of construction paper and cardboard in my bedroom. And I just thought everything that surrounded the game itself was beautiful. But more than any of the other sports, baseball had some of that and basketball had some of that to me. But more than the other sports, football had this immense beauty going on in such a grand scale, the biggest stadiums of all the sports and the most players on the field of all the sports. And it was just sensory overload, and I loved it.
I was sold, I have to admit, by NFL films too. It
Yeah.
had a big impact
Sure.
on me. Just the slow motion, the music, the
So this-
shots of sweat flying off of a helmet. It's just, oh my gosh. And then I tried to play the game, and I was awful. I was so bad. Why couldn't I be Randy White? Why couldn't I be Roger Staubach? I couldn't. But it gave me even a deeper appreciation for the game. And then when my kids played, and they played high school football, something I didn't do past my freshman year, and I thought, man, I'd love to be out there right now and
Same.
experiencing that.
In a hot tub with my soulmate.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, there's
we
no
would have
doubt.
won state for sure.
Yeah, if I would have stayed in Llano, I think I would have been in the NFL.
Well,
No
the most
doubt about it.
beautiful thing about football is turning $150 million into $14.2 billion. How about that right down here?
I would have to agree that
That
probably
makes
is
it a
it.
game of beauty.
That's
No.
the beauty of the game right there.
Congrats on that, by the way, Jerry.
Thank you so much. Do appreciate it.
The other thing, there's a couple items that I want to point out about football that are just so beautiful. The fact that all 11 guys go into a successful play, and there are so many great plays in NFL history where we do think about the quarterback throwing it to the guy for the touchdown. And so maybe it's just those two guys in a lot of minds. But for me, you go back and every time you watch a play, you see something different. And there's always that running back who doesn't see the guy who's about to just bury the quarterback, and he's blitzing, and you didn't see him at first, and you're doing your job, and you're trying to offer protection, but now out of the corner of your eye, oh my gosh, that guy broke through the lines, and he's about to ruin this play. And to watch a running back recognize at the last second and then do everything he can to get over there and just get a small piece of the blitzer to throw him off course and to free up the quarterback for that moment. Like I can see those in my moment. I just think about that guy will never get a statistic. He'll never get probably even a mention in the newspaper. But without him, that play does not happen and that championship does not happen. And so there's so many of those moments in football history. And whether it's just your team or your game or just a game you happen upon on TV, those things happen on every single play. And then what Junior said was great in terms of my memories and why I love this sport is when you mention going to play in someone else's stadium. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, more rewarding than going to someone else's place and taking a win out of there and proving you can go to their city in front of their fans and their hostile environment, and it's just you guys. It's just you guys on the bus, and they're all throwing stuff at the bus, and they're yelling at you as you run onto their field, and you're the enemy, and you're surrounded by a sea of color of that team and their belief that this is their day to beat you. And you're like, you wag your finger and you're like, no, not today. We're coming into your house and we're taking your stuff and we're leaving with the win. And those are such historically meaningful moments of this is why we do this.
It's
And
like
we do this for each other.
53 people defeating 80,000.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
And so these are the things that fuel me. And George, I've never played a down of real football in my life. I went to a school that didn't even play football. And so I've always been this observer. And yeah, maybe this wannabe. Yeah, absolutely, I'm a wannabe. If you would have told me I could play football for a living, yes, of course. Of course, those of us in the media are those who couldn't wear a jock very well. It's just, but that maybe draws me even more to this magical land of football. That to me, it's almost a different version of Star Wars as a young boy sort of thing. Like, this is fantasy land for me. Yeah.
Well, and you talked about the careers that we've had early in radio just to make a living. I did Friday night high school football. Saturday, I was doing North Texas football, and then Sunday covering the Cowboys. And I remember someone asking, "Man, you're working 7 days a week." And I went, "Yeah, isn't it great?" I'm around football, and it was really busy. And Craig and I did a lot of the same things early in our radio career, and covering teams and doing extra games on a Friday or a Saturday night. But man, I wouldn't have it any other way looking back. And it's hard for me to do at my age now, but there are times where it's like, man, I'd love to be with the team for an entire season again. And just how that, starts and finishes, and what's the record? How did you get there? It's just, the journey is incredible.
Yeah, and the friendships and the bonds and the unified experience you all go through. And then the further we get into this and the more years we do this, the more details that haven't been looking at times become interesting to us. Like, over this last decade or so, maybe last little while, I actually now find the singular player's journey to be something. Like, how hard it is to make a football team at like the NFL level is so underappreciated by culture.
Yeah.
I just think we are used to kind of making fun of bench warmers because we were bench warmers, and that's
movie.
that's relatable to us. Is that okay? That guy never plays, so he must stink. No, he is a Dallas Cowboy. Okay?
Yeah.
If you put on the Dallas Cowboy uniform one time, you are such a rare gem in this universe.
Yes.
It is so hard to make an NFL team, even if you're making the league minimum. And even if that money won't last you very long in the real world. Like, everybody thinks, oh, they're all so rich and famous. Yeah, a few of them are.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't. Most of them will get real jobs when they're done playing football.
Like Taco Charlton, I think he did.
Yeah, I think he probably did. And it's just it's a universe where even to make the team or to just be a small piece of this is impossible. And I think even those guys deserve our greatest respect, even if they'll never help your fantasy football team. They are so. I mean, think of their story. Like, they were the best football player they ever knew for most of their life. And then they get to the biggest of the big leagues, and they can just barely make a team like one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen superstar college players cannot make the pros.
Right. It's so hard. And so, and we have P1s who, Kurt Peterson listens every day to our radio station. He's an old Cowboy offensive lineman.
Number 65.
And now he just listens to our radio shows, and he's, I think, in banking or something like that. But I just think that's fascinating to me that those guys are just part of this fraternity.
Yeah. That
we can talk to them about what it was like, but they know the secret handshake that we'll never know.
Absolutely. Well, we love football season, and we love Bob Sturm, who joined us for episode 11. Starting next week, the Musers, the podcast special Cowboys edition will drop on Thursdays. So Bob's going to be with us during the football season and maybe beyond to talk NFL, Cowboys, whatever hits our fancy. It's been awesome, Bob. Thanks.
This is a real pleasure, guys. And let me just remind everybody, someday they'll go all the way.
Will we see it?
Someday.
Will he see it?
I don't know. I'm not sure about him.
Can I say one more thing before we go?
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson's penis looked like a
Okay,
dehydrated
we got
acorn.
it. We got it. We
And I
got
want
it.
people to
Thank
know
you
that.
very much. Don't forget the Musers, the podcast. Next Wednesday, we continue our series of things we love, our passions in life, and it's my turn next week. Thanks to Peter Welton, our producer. Thanks to Bob Sturm. And we'll talk to you again next week on the Musers, the podcast.
So yeah, lots more good content coming your way. So make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to make sure you don't miss any of it. You can also email the Musers at themuserspod@gmail.com. The Musers, the podcast, is a Tired Head production.
Young fake Jerry in here.
Well, listen to that.
No.
That's 40-year-old Jerry.
That's right. We got socks and jocks.
And then take helium out of that.
Then he starts talking a little bit more down here like this, and then he eventually gets on down here like this.
You like fake Jerry, Bob?
I love fake Jerry. I had no idea he would be joining us. This really.
Who is Bob?
We're about to tell America who Bob is.
Hey,
But the world,
Well,
not America.
yeah,
I think this was just going out to America
No,
because we're
that's
talking
going to
about America's
upset our
team.
Singapore listeners.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about Singapore.
We have listeners around the globe.
I forgot about that.
Well, I don't give a fudge.
Okay, that ought to work.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's pretty good.